Lena stood at the edge of Dock 7 and looked at the massive space station in front of her. The station was old, dark, and shaped like a ring of metal teeth. Many ships came and went, but very few humans ever stopped here. This place was not friendly to humans. Everyone knew that. Lena had taken the job because no one else would. She was not rich. She was not famous. She was just a human woman who needed work and believed that fear should never decide her life. When the message arrived asking for a temporary caretaker for alien cubs, she read it 3 times to be sure it was real. The pay was high, the risk was higher. The alien species on the station were large and strong. Their voices were loud, their tempers were short. Even adults from other species avoided them. Their cubs were worse. The cubs bit, shoved, screamed, and attacked anyone who came close. Many caretakers had tried. All of them failed. Lena stepped off the transport ship with a single bag. The air inside the station felt heavy. It smelled of metal and heat. Several aliens watched her from a distance. They whispered to each other in low sounds. Some laughed. Some looked curious. None looked worried. An official named Rook met her at the gate. He was tall, with thick arms and dark eyes. His voice was deep and rough. "You are the human," he said. "Yes," Lena replied. "You understand the danger?" Rook asked. "Yes," she said again. Rook studied her for a long moment. "You may leave at any time," he said. "No shame." Lena nodded. "I will decide that myself." Rook did not smile. They walked through long halls until they reached a wide door made of reinforced steel. Behind it came loud noises. Roars, crashes, screams that shook the walls. Lena stopped walking. "Those are the cubs," Rook said. "There are 4 of them, all strong, all angry. They do not like strangers." "Do they like anyone?" Lena asked. Rook paused. "No." He opened the door and stepped back. The noise rushed out like a storm. The room was large and filled with broken furniture. Claw marks covered the walls. The floor was scratched and cracked. In the center stood 4 cubs. Each one was taller than Lena's chest. Their teeth were sharp. Their eyes burned with challenge. The cubs turned toward her at the same time. They roared. The sound hit Lena like a wave. Her heart jumped. Her muscles tightened. Every instinct told her to run. She did not move. Rook stayed outside the room. The door remained open. He watched closely, ready to shut it if needed. The largest cub stepped forward. It slammed its foot into the floor. The others joined in, roaring again, louder this time. Lena slowly placed her bag down. Took 1 step forward. The cubs stopped roaring. Their eyes narrowed. This was not what they expected. Lena raised her head and met their gaze. She did not smile. She did not shout. She stood still and calm. "I am here to watch you," she said in a clear voice. "I am not food. I am not a toy." The cubs did not understand her words, but they understood her tone. The largest cub rushed at her. Rook's hand moved toward the door controls. The cub stopped inches from Lena's face. It sniffed her. Lena did not flinch. The cub growled low, trying to scare her. Lena leaned forward slightly. "No," she said. The word was small. The meaning was not. The cub stepped back. Rook blinked. From the observation window above, several alien parents watched in silence. They had expected screams. They had expected blood. Instead, they saw stillness. The cubs circled Lena slowly. One tried to grab her arm. Lena caught its wrist and gently but firmly pushed it away. "Not allowed," she said. The cub snarled and tried again, harder. Lena shifted her weight and used the cub's movement against it. The cub stumbled and landed on its back. The room went silent. The cubs stared at their fallen sibling. No one had ever done that before. Lena took a deep breath. "We will have rules," she said. "You will not hurt each other. You will not hurt me." The smallest cub made a sharp sound and charged. This time, Lena did not move away. She dropped to one knee and opened her arms. The cub crashed into her chest and pushed her backward. Lena hit the floor. Rook moved. The sound confused everyone. She wrapped her arms around the cub and held it still until it stopped struggling. "Easy," she said. "Too much energy." The cub froze. Slowly, Lena released it. The cub did not attack again. The parents watching from above shifted uneasily. This human was not acting like prey. Rook closed the door behind him and locked it. He stayed. Lena stood up and brushed dust from her clothes. "We will start with sitting," she said. The cubs stared. Lena sat down on the floor. After a long moment, one cub copied her, then another. The largest cub stayed standing, watching closely. Lena did not force it. Outside the room, alarms suddenly echoed through the station. Red lights flashed. Rook's communicator activated. "Power loss in the lower sectors," a voice said. Rook looked at Lena. She looked back. The cubs began to roar again, sensing danger. Lena stood and moved in front of them without thinking. "Stay behind me," she said. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the station, something went very wrong. And Lena did not step aside. The alarms blared through the space station. Red lights flashed across the walls and ceilings. Lena felt a pulse of fear, but did not let it control her. She kept her eyes on the cubs. They were jittery, snarling, and hissing at each other. The biggest cub's tail lashed like a whip. The danger in the air made them tense. Lena had to act fast. She held up her hands. "Stay calm," she said. Her voice was steady, even against the roar of the alarms. The cubs looked at her, unsure. None of them had ever heard a human speak like this when danger came. Most humans ran. She did not. The station shook. Lena felt the vibrations through her feet. Somewhere deep inside, something heavy slammed against the walls. The cubs growled and scrambled. One tripped over the floor and let out a small cry. Lena rushed forward and picked it up, holding it close. The cub stiffened in her arms, then slowly relaxed. "Good," she said. "Nothing will get you here." The other cubs watched, their ears flattened. They had never seen a human do this. Most humans shrieked or froze. Lena was neither. She was a shield. The idea confused them. Slowly, they crept closer, circling her like they would a leader. Rook's voice came through the communicator. "Lena, are you safe? The doors are locked. There is no way in or out. Keep them calm." Outside, she could hear the sounds of heavy metal scraping and distant shouts from other staff. The station's lower sectors were in chaos. The cubs felt it too. Their claws dug into the floor, and their eyes darted around the room. Lena stepped into the center and spread her arms wide. "Do not attack," she said. "Look at me." They did. They could not understand all her words, but her stance told them more than language. She was strong. She would not flee. She would not let them be harmed. The lights flickered again, plunging the room into near darkness. The cubs hissed. One tried to bolt toward the door. Lena stepped in front. "No," she said firmly. "Stay." The cub froze, its small body trembling. Lena reached down and put her hand on its back. There was a pulse of warmth, and the cub calmed. It leaned against her. She looked at the others. One by one they moved closer. Slowly, their growls faded. Their anger and fear began to mix with curiosity. Lena did not rush them. She did not force her will. She waited. She let them choose. Then the largest cub roared. It was not a threat. It was confusion. Lena raised her voice, matching the tone but not the volume. She did not scream. She did not shout. She roared back. The room fell silent. The cub's eyes widened. They stared at her in disbelief. No human had ever made that sound. No human had ever met their strength with such courage. Lena stood tall, her chest heaving. Her roar faded into words. "I am not afraid," she said. "You are safe here." The cubs blinked. They sniffed the air. Slowly they began to circle her again, but this time with caution instead of aggression. One of the smaller cubs stepped forward, nudging her hand. Lena laughed softly and petted its head. She kept talking low and calm. The room shook again. Metal groaned. Lena's body tensed. She could hear the scrape of heavy objects moving outside the doors. The cubs crouched, ready to bolt. Lena crouched too, showing them she would face the danger alongside them. She whispered, "Stay close. Trust me." Rook called again. "Lena, the predators have broken free. Move to safe zone now." Lena shook her head. "Not yet. The cubs will not survive panic. We wait. We stay together." They pressed closer to her, leaning on her legs. She reached down and gathered the smallest one into her arms. The others formed a loose circle around her, watching and waiting. For the first time, they obeyed a human. A loud crash echoed from the hall. The largest cub's ears flicked. Its tail lashed. Lena held up her hand. "Calm," she said. The cub hesitated, then obeyed. Lena's calmness flowed into them, a strange human power that no alien had ever mastered with cubs. The doors shook. Something heavy pressed against them. Lena could hear metal bending. The cubs growled in unison. She stepped in front of the group and planted her feet firmly. She was their wall. She was their shield. The threat pressed harder. Lena grabbed a nearby metal pole and held it across her chest. The cubs watched. They had no idea what it was, but they saw her strength. They saw her bravery. They waited. The first wave of the thread hit the door. Sparks flew. Lena swung the pole at the gap, hitting hard metal with force. The cubs jumped back. Lena stayed steady, keeping the pole between the intruder and the group. She was loud, not with anger, but with focus. Her voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Leave us," she said. The door cracked. Lena shifted her weight, bracing for impact. The cubs crouched behind her. Their eyes were wide. They did not run. They did not bite. They waited with her. Finally, the shaking stopped. Silence filled the room. Lena lowered the pole slowly. The cubs stepped forward one by one. They sniffed the air, testing the calm. They nudged her hands. Lena smiled, exhausted but steady. "Good," she said. "You are safe. We survived." The cubs made small noises. It was not a roar, not a growl, something like relief. Lena patted the largest cub's head. She could feel its muscles relax. The cub looked at her differently now. They had seen her strength. They had felt her courage. They had experienced her protection. Rook's voice came through the communicator, quiet this time. "Are you okay?" "Yes," Lena said. "We are all fine." They had learned something new. Humans were strange. Humans were small. Humans were weak in some ways. But humans were not afraid. Humans could roar back. Humans could stand between them and danger. Humans could protect. The lights flickered back on. Lena looked at the cubs. They were exhausted, their energy drained from fear and adrenaline. Lena sat down, letting them rest near her. She did not push. She let them choose to stay or leave. They stayed. Outside the observation window, the parents watched silently. Their mouths were tight. They did not understand how a human had done what they could not. They had underestimated Lena. They had thought fear would bend her. Instead, she had stood, she had roared, she had protected. The station alarm stopped. Silence returned. The danger had passed for now. Lena breathed deeply and looked at the cubs. She knew this was only the beginning. The cubs would test her again. They would challenge her again. But the first lesson had been learned. Fear did not rule this room anymore. The cubs slowly got comfortable. One nuzzled her side. Another lay down near her feet. The largest cub circled once, then sat a few steps away, watching. She had survived her first test. She had not only survived, but she had gained trust. The cubs were wild, but they had seen a human who could not be broken by fear. Outside the nursery, the parents whispered among themselves. Something had changed. The human had changed something they had thought unchangeable. The cubs were learning, not just from her words, but from her courage. They had learned that humans could be more than prey. They could be leaders, protectors, and friends. And Lena, tired but steady, knew that this was just the first day. Many challenges would come, many dangers would appear, but she also knew that she had made the cubs understand something important. They had felt her strength. They had seen her bravery. They had chosen to follow her. The storm outside the room would rage. The alarms might sound again. But inside, a human had roared back, and the cubs were listening. The station shook again. Lena felt the vibrations under her feet. The cubs stirred around her. They were alert and tense. Something was moving outside the nursery, heavy and fast. Lena did not panic. She had learned to control her fear and show calm. The cubs followed her example, watching every move. A loud crash came from the hall. Sparks flew as a broken panel hit the floor. Lena stepped in front of the cubs. "Stay close," she said. Her voice was firm. The cubs crouched low, ready to defend themselves. They had begun to trust her judgment, even in danger. The doors shook violently. The lock held, but the threat pressed hard. Lena grabbed a metal pipe nearby and held it across her chest. The cubs watched her, learning her movements. They had never seen a human use simple tools so effectively. Lena did not swing the pipe yet. She only blocked the space between them and the intruder. The largest cub growled. Lena turned toward it. "Calm," she said. The cub hesitated, then obeyed. The other cubs mirrored her words and movements, crouching and staying still. Lena felt a spark of pride. They were learning quickly. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the floor. Something big had broken free from the lower sector. Lena held her pipe higher, ready. The cubs tensed, ready to leap. Lena did not flinch. She faced the shadow and spoke softly, trying to show control. "Come near," she said, "not to attack, just to see." Sparks from the alarms reflected off its metallic surface. It was not alive, but it moved like it was. Lena had seen automated security robots. Some had gone rogue. This one was heavy, clumsy, but dangerous. If it reached the cubs, it could hurt them badly. Lena swung the pipe toward the door, slamming it against the wall with force. The robot backed away, confused. She repeated it. The cubs watched and learned. One small cub moved forward to test the space. Lena did not stop it. She held her stance, calm and steady. The cub touched the metal robot lightly. It shivered but did not bite. Lena patted its head. "Good," she said. The robot hesitated. Lena stepped closer. She was small compared to the robot, but she made herself appear larger. She raised the pipe high. The cubs crouched low but stayed behind her. The robot tried to move past, but Lena blocked it with a single step. Then she yelled, "Not here!" The sound echoed through the nursery. The robot recoiled, then paused. Lena had made it hesitate. It did not attack. The cubs stared. They had never seen humans roar like this. They had never seen humans stand between them and danger so confidently. Lena lowered the pipe and spoke in a calm voice. "It is safe. Do not be afraid." The robot finally retreated a few steps, then turned and moved back toward the hall. Lena waited until it was gone before letting the cubs relax. The cubs circled her, sniffing, making low sounds. They seemed curious now instead of angry. Lena smiled and patted each one. They were learning that humans were different. They were learning that humans could protect. Outside the observation windows, the parents watched silently. They did not move. They had never seen anything like this. They had feared for their cubs. They had thought humans weak. They were wrong. This human had protected their young when the alarms and chaos had made everyone else freeze. She had faced danger directly and stood strong. The cubs had learned something important. The parents had learned something too. Something heavy hit the walls. Lena held the cubs close and moved to a corner, using it as a shield. She listened to the sounds and assessed the movement. The cubs stayed calm because she stayed calm. One of the smaller cubs tried to climb onto her lap. Lena let it. It was learning trust. Another cub followed, leaning against her legs. Lena smiled. Rook's voice came through the communicator. "Are you all right? The cubs are with you?" "Yes," Lena said. "Everyone is fine." Rook's tone shifted. "Keep them inside until the engineers can secure the lower sector." "Understood," Lena said. The cubs started to relax more, but Lena knew the danger was not over. The station's lower levels were unstable. More robots or heavy objects could fall. She needed to keep the cubs safe and calm until help arrived. She took a deep breath and spoke to them softly. "Stay close. We wait." Together. The largest cub finally sat down, a few steps away, watching her carefully. The other cubs gathered near her, their tails low but not stiff. Lena let them stay. She did not force them to do anything. Trust could not be forced. It was earned, and they were starting to trust her. Time passed slowly. The red lights flickered back to normal. The alarms faded. The danger seemed to have passed, at least for now. Lena stayed with the cubs, making sure they stayed calm. She petted them and spoke softly, letting them know that humans could be steady, that humans could protect. The cubs began to mimic her movements. One rolled onto its back, stretching like she had done earlier. Another nudged her hand. Lena laughed softly. They were learning not only from words, but from actions. The human was teaching them more than anyone else ever had. Outside, the alien parents whispered among themselves. They had underestimated Lena. They had expected failure. They had expected screams. Instead, they had seen control, courage, and strength. They had seen their cubs begin to listen to a human. They did not know what to think. Lena sat on the floor with the cubs resting near her. She felt a sense of calm despite the chaos outside. She knew the day had only begun and challenges would continue, but she had earned the cubs' trust. She had shown them that humans could protect them when no one else could, and for now, that was enough. She looked around the nursery, checking the cubs one last time. Their breathing had slowed. Their ears twitched, but not in panic. They were learning. And Lena knew that tomorrow they would test her again, but she would meet every test with the same courage and calm. She would not run. She would not scream. She would roar back. The station was quieter now, but tension still hung in the air. Lena stood in the nursery with the cubs around her. The alarms had stopped, but the aftershocks of danger were still felt in every vibration of the metal floors. The cubs were alert, but they no longer barked or roared at every sound. Lena's calm had spread to them. They had learned to trust her. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Lena's heart skipped, but she did not panic. The cubs perked up, their ears swiveling toward the sound. Lena placed herself between them and the door. She did not move yet. She waited, listening. The flicker passed, but the cubs had learned to be cautious and ready. They stayed close to her. Outside the observation window, the alien parents watched anxiously. They had stayed back at first, unwilling to face the chaos themselves. Now, seeing their cubs safe and calm with a human, their expressions were uneasy. They had underestimated Lena, and the realization was bitter. The human had not only survived the threats, but had kept the cubs calm and safe. For the first time, they were not the strongest figures in the room. Lena was. Rook's voice came through the communicator. "Are you still holding them together? The engineers are sealing the lower sectors, but it may take time." "Yes," Lena said. "We are fine. Stay calm." They could sense her control over fear and danger. They mirrored her posture, crouching low but staying ready. One cub leaned against her leg. Another pressed its head into her side. They had begun to understand protection. The doors rattled again. Lena stepped forward, blocking the cubs. A loud thump echoed through the room. Lena held a metal pipe across her chest, ready for anything. The cubs stayed behind her, tense but trusting. The threat did not enter, and Lena waited until the sound faded. She exhaled slowly, letting the cubs relax for a moment. "Good," she said. "It is safe." The cubs responded in their own ways. They sniffed the air, nudged her hands, and circled near her. Lena could feel their trust growing. They had learned something important. Humans could protect. Humans could fight back. Humans could stay calm when danger arrived. Another crash came from the lower sectors. Lena's muscles tensed, but she did not move the cubs. They would follow her example. She crouched, speaking softly. "Stay close," she said. They obeyed without hesitation. The largest cub stayed a few steps back, watching. But it too had learned restraint. Lena could see the change in them. They were learning to listen and wait. They were learning trust. Rook's voice came again. "Engineers report the threat has been contained. The lower sectors are secured. You are safe for now." Lena nodded. "Good," she said to the cubs. "We wait. Together." The cubs relaxed a little more, lying down near her feet and sides. They made soft sounds, not growls or roars. Lena spoke to them in low, calm tones, repeating simple instructions. "Do not attack. Stay close. Trust me." They responded with gentle nudges and purrs. They were learning not only from words, but from her courage and her presence. Lena felt a wave of satisfaction. She had earned their respect. Outside, the alien parents whispered among themselves. They had underestimated the human. They had expected chaos and failure. Instead, they had seen control and courage. The cubs had been protected when they could not even reach the room. The human had done what no alien could do in that moment. They had learned a difficult truth. Humans were more than they looked. Time passed. The station's lights stabilized. The cubs slept near her, heads resting on her legs or chest. Lena remained vigilant, watching the doors and listening to the distant sounds. She knew the danger could return, but she also knew that she had shown the cubs the power of calm and courage. They had learned to stay with her, to trust her in ways no human had been trusted before. A soft sound made Lena look up. The largest cub had shifted, moving closer to her side. Its eyes met hers. For the first time, it seemed almost respectful. It had seen strength and bravery. It had felt protection. Lena reached down and petted its head gently. "Good," she said. "Very good." The cub responded with a soft rumble. The sound was not a roar. It was something softer, more like a human sound of contentment. Lena smiled. They were learning to respond to her in ways she could understand. They were learning communication and trust. The rest of the cubs mirrored the largest one. They relaxed further, nuzzling her hands and leaning against her legs. Lena stayed seated, calm and steady. She had survived the day's dangers and had earned the cubs' respect. She had learned something as well. This human had more than courage. She had patience, strategy, and understanding. She had learned to be a protector, not a fighter, and that was more powerful than any roar. Outside the nursery, the alien parents moved closer to the observation window. They whispered urgently among themselves. Their cubs had learned from a human. They had followed her lead. They had been protected by a human. The lesson was clear and uncomfortable. Humans could be strong, brave, and effective. They could face danger without running. They could teach respect and trust through courage and presence. Lena looked at the cubs and spoke softly. "We are safe for now," she said. "Stay close. Together." The cubs responded by settling near her, lying down and closing their eyes. They were not asleep in fear, but in trust. They had learned from her example. Lena smiled and petted each one. The room was quiet, except for their soft breaths. Outside, the parents watched, silent and uneasy. Lena knew the day was not over. Many challenges would come, many threats would arrive, but she also knew she had earned something that could not be taken away. She had earned the trust and respect of beings stronger than she was. She had shown that humans could stand firm and protect those in need. She looked at the cubs once more. They had learned to follow her lead. They had learned that she would stand between them and danger. They had learned that humans could roar back, not with strength alone, but with courage and calm. Lena felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Today had been the first real test, and she had passed. Outside, the station moved and hummed. The chaos of earlier had passed. Engineers were working to secure the lower sectors. The cubs slept near her. Lena stayed vigilant, watching and listening. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, she had won the respect and trust of beings who had never trusted a human before, and Lena, calm and steady, knew she would meet every challenge with the same courage and determination. She would protect the cubs. She would teach them, and they would follow her. For today, the human had roared back, and the cubs had listened. The station was calm now. The alarms had stopped, and the lower sectors were secured. Lena sat on the floor with the cubs resting around her. Their breaths were soft and their bodies relaxed. It had been a long day of danger and learning, but the cubs had begun to trust her completely. She looked at them and smiled, feeling the bond that had formed in such a short time. Outside the nursery, the alien parents whispered among themselves. They had expected chaos and destruction, but instead they had seen control, courage, and calm. Their cubs had been protected by a human, something they could not believe. They moved closer to the observation windows, unable to hide their curiosity and concern. The human had changed their understanding of strength and trust. Rook appeared at the doorway, his expression serious. Lena nodded at him. "We are fine," she said. "The cubs are calm. They are safe." Rook looked at the cubs, and then at her. He did not speak. Words could not describe what he had witnessed. The cubs had followed her, learned from her, and been protected by her. The human had become more than a caretaker. She had become a leader in their eyes. The cubs began to move around her, playing softly and nudging her hands. Lena laughed quietly. She had taught them that humans were not weak, that humans could protect and teach. The cubs had learned more in one day than most would in a month. They had learned courage, calm, and trust. A small alarm sounded in the station, indicating that a new message had arrived. Lena checked it. It was from the council. They wanted a report on the situation. Lena stood with the cubs following her. She walked to the observation deck with them, close, each step measured and steady. The cubs watched her, learning once again. They were calm, confident, and ready to act if needed. The council awaited her report. They were not expecting what they would hear. Lena described the event simply. She had stayed calm. She had protected the cubs. They had followed her lead and learned from her courage. The council listened, some in disbelief, some in awe. They had never seen a human act this way. One of the cubs roared softly, not aggressively, but in greeting. Lena smiled and nodded. They were beginning to communicate, not with fear or anger, but with understanding. The council was impressed. They asked if Lena would continue as a caretaker and trainer. She agreed. She knew the cubs had more to learn, and she wanted to continue teaching them. The alien parents, still at the observation windows, watched silently. Their cubs had chosen to stay with a human. They had been protected by a human when they themselves could not reach them. They had seen the power of courage, calm, and trust. The lesson was clear. Humans were capable of more than they had ever imagined. Lena returned to the nursery with the cubs. They settled around her once again, resting and playing quietly. She spoke softly, reinforcing lessons of calm, respect, and trust. The cubs listened, learning quickly. They were beginning to understand that Lena was not only their protector, but also their teacher. Outside, the station hummed with renewed activity. The lower sectors were repaired, and the engineers moved freely. Lena remained focused on the cubs, making sure they were safe and comfortable. She watched them closely, noticing small changes in behavior, learning, and communication. Each cub had begun to mirror her calm and courage. As the day turned to night on the station, Lena sat with the cubs. She spoke softly about the events, reinforcing the lessons of bravery and trust. The cubs listened, their eyes wide with understanding. They had learned that humans could be more than small and weak. Humans could be brave, strong in courage, and capable of protecting even the strongest young aliens. The alien parents finally approached the nursery. They did not enter, but watched from a respectful distance. They had learned that Lena had earned their cubs' trust. They had learned that humans could be more than they appeared. The cubs did not leave Lena's side. They had chosen her as their protector and teacher. Lena stood and stretched. She looked around the nursery, at the cubs, and at the parents watching from outside. She knew this was just the beginning. The cubs had more to learn, and so did the humans watching the results. This day had shown that courage, calm, and trust could bridge species, teaching lessons no one expected. The cubs roared together, softly and playfully, acknowledging Lena. She laughed and responded with a soft human roar. The cubs paused, then roared back louder. They were playing, learning, and communicating. The parents at the windows shook their heads in surprise and quiet admiration. Humans were not weak. Humans were capable of protecting, teaching, and inspiring. Lena sat down again, with the cubs resting near her. She looked at them, feeling the bond that had formed. The cubs had learned, she had taught, and the parents had watched. The station had survived chaos and danger. Trust had been earned, respect had been gained. The human had shown strength not through force alone, but through courage, calm, and protection. As the station lights dimmed for the night cycle, Lena whispered to the cubs, "Tomorrow will be a new day. We will learn more together." The cubs responded with soft rumbles and nudges. They had learned to trust her. They had learned that humans could roar back. They had learned that humans could protect. The alien parents left the observation windows slowly, still unsure of what to say. Their cubs had changed. They had been taught lessons they could not teach themselves. Lena had shown that a human could be more than anyone expected, and in that moment, the bond between species had grown stronger. Lena watched the cubs as they settled down for the night. She felt a quiet pride. She had faced danger, taught courage, and earned trust. The cubs were no longer wild and fearful. They were learning, playing, and trusting. She had changed their world, and they had changed hers. And as the lights dimmed and the station hummed quietly, Lena knew that humans could be more than anyone imagined. Humans could protect, teach, and inspire. The cubs had listened. The parents had seen. The human had roared back.